Right, hello Wednesday Bike Clubbers. We're back. What are we talking about today? Well, I thought we'd talk about what it is to, a little bit like make that statement that, oh, this bike's a keeper. I'm never going to sell this bike. And it was something I saw on a YouTube channel the other day. And I thought it'd just be quite interesting to discuss that. And what does it make you fall into a trap when you say that a little bit? Because you know what we're like, we're terrible. We end up selling our bikes. So I thought we'd go around that discussion and also about, that seller's remorse about if you sold a bike, you think, oh my God, why did I sell that bike? So I thought we'd go and talk about that. But also, um, I've had Sofirn send me another one of their lights. They got certainly one of their Pro One, SE Pro Ones. And I'm not making anything out of this. I just like the lights. And I just think they're a cool bit of kit. So I thought we'd have a quick chat about that as well. So it's something might be useful for you because I think they're really useful and they're very cheap. Hence why I don't get anything out of it apart from the light. But I thought we'd go and do that. But we'll go nip over to, I think, Whisper Green onto the parched cricket pitch. Come on. Ooh. There we go. Got it in the end. My bag was in the way. I didn't look ultra cool then, did I? Right, come on. Right, so here we are. I'm going to come on to the subject about these keepers, what you class a motorbike as a keeper. And does that put you into a bit of a trap? But I was before we go on, I just want to talk about these Sofirn lights. The nice people at Sofirn sent me the SE1 Pro, which are these little lights. So I don't get any kickback from this. So all I ever ask of some of these companies, oh, that's really good. Can I just keep the light? And they go, yes, okay. But I just think it's a really good bit of kit. And if you remember from my last post on these, or the last episode I did on these, they have all these really great little fitments. And I said, you know what, if you got really stuck, let's say you're out in the middle of nowhere and your headlight fails, you could just clip them straight on. And they are so bright. These are 300 lumen, which is way brighter than my headlight, certainly on this. But what's nice, because you've got the USB-C connector, what I do with these, and I'll be fitting this one, the Pro, which is the great colour, because they do these in the different colours. They do a cherry, an awesome little green one, and this white one. I'll be fitting them to the Moto Guzzi V85, because you can mount it on the bar and you can charge it, just got to keep it charged up. But these last hours and hours and hours and hours, so it's not a major issue. But they're fantastic little lights, and they're so cheap. I think these Pro ones are about 16 quid. I've got no code or anything for you guys, but I just think it's a cheap little option. They're built like tanks, and they're really simple to use. So do check those out. I think they're a nice bit of kit. They're very tactile. That's what I like about them. I just like the adaptability of them. Because although that little clip mount has got a magnet in it, these are actually magnetic anyway, and they will just sit there, which is really good. Is that metal? No, it's not metal. Put it on your brake disc if you felt like it. But they could be handy as little work lights when you're doing stuff. Awesome bit of kit. It's just some of those things, I'm like, I don't promote too much stuff, but I just think, if it's a good piece of kit, then it's sort of worth having, and it's only cheap. And you've got a really nice strong cord you can put them on your key. Do you remember I said you could put them onto the key with the little strap thing, and then just put it close enough so that the little carrier sits there on your handlebars. So worth looking out for. The link is in the description for the Sofirn lights. So you've got the standard Sofirn. And then you've got the Pro one, so look out for those. Thank you, Sofirn, bring me that one. Right, on with the main body of the episode. So, yeah, it was just what sparked my interest in this. I was watching, the ubiquitous Freddie Dobbs, and he was talking about his Bonneville, because his Bonneville's obviously he's had that a long time, hasn't he, in motorbike terms for us, isn't it? And this is what I'm alluding to. And he'd done something like 60 odd thousand miles on that bike now, and he said, you know, this is a keep, I'm never getting rid of that. And that's always that's always a faithful thing to say, isn't it? Because I've avoided. I'm sure Freddie will keep his bike, because you know, it's an important part. It's become integral to him, isn't it? And actually the channel, which is quite interesting. So it's sort of sentimental for him. But I wonder, you know, that the bikes that I have, is there any bikes that I'd say that are keepers? And I think you have to put those into a certain category, wouldn't you? You know, I did the work on this. Would I keep this? Well, I think if I'm enjoying it at the moment, so I'm really, really enjoying it. But I would never say I was going to keep it. But only in terms of, I would only get rid of it. One, if someone came up to me and said, "Oh, I really want your bike. I really want it," and it was a sensible offer. Not that I am thinking of selling this, but I've not got no real attachment to these things. They're not historical to me. There's no history with it as such. You know, I've only had this, I don't know how long have I had this, 18 months, 2 years, I can't remember now. And I only did the work on it a little while ago, and I'm loving it. And in fact, it's the only bike I've got at the moment which is MOT'd. The other one, the motor currency, is not. I haven't picked up the 85 TT yet, which is going to come this week. So, but it's great, and I'm loving owning it. But there will probably come a point, possibly, you never know, where I think, oh, I want something else in the garage. I've seen something, you know, I've fallen in love with something else. It's like me and jackets, right? Bike jackets. Never bought a new bike. I've never bought a new bike jacket, right? They've always been second-hand from Vinted, and they're always really cheap. And I buy one, and it arrives, and I put it off there. Oh, this is the one. This is the one. This is the jacket. And then, you know, 3 months down the line, something else appears. This is the one. This is the one. And it's like that with motorbikes, isn't it? You have this. Quite often, us riders, we have this short love affair with motorbikes, and we saw it, didn't we, in an advert, and we pictured ourselves on it, and we thought, oh, I'm going to look so great on this bike. I'm going to look so cool. And you get it, and it doesn't live up to expectations, does it? It doesn't. It's a bit like we're getting into that stage where we're buying things like the way we watch TV, or, you know, we scroll. It's this endless scrolling, is it? There's an instant gratification, and then once that's gone, it's gone, and we don't get that back. I think sometimes with motorbikes you can be in a situation where you ride a bike, you think this is fantastic, then something else comes along, and then you've forgotten why you really liked that bike, why it was so good, and then you get back on it after a few months, you think, oh, I remember why this was really good. And I think we're terrible for that, bike riders. We're terrible for doing that, is sort of stopping and starting. I have that with the Hunter. The Hunter's like that, because it's Karen's bike, really. You know, when I want to ride it, I've got to swap the seat back over. I've got the signature seat. So when I owned it, I put that seat on it and did some of the little bits to it, like the handlebar rise and the rest of it. And I forget how much I loved that bike. And I get on it, I think, oh God, this was such a good bike. But I wouldn't necessarily own it again. I suppose because I've got it there and I can use it if I need it. I don't feel the need to buy another one. And I don't know if, like you, I'm quite difficult to go back to something. You know, you sort of feel like you're not wasting money, but you're sort of, I've been there, I've done that. And is it because you're, or like me, you're almost always in a search for that nirvana, aren't you? That one thing that as soon as you sit on it, there's angels are going to start calling, and it's going to be magic. And I wonder if you've been in that situation where you've thought, am I still looking for that magic moment with the motorbike? Am I there yet? Have I found it, or will I ever actually find it? Because I don't think we ever really do. I think we find things that. There's no such thing as perfect, is there? I don't think there is anything as perfect. because we'd only ever buy one thing of everything, and we would never buy anything else. And I think we have that desire to keep changing and getting a new experience, is sort of trying something new again. And you know, I don't know whether it is we really are looking for something, that perfect thing, or we just like the fun of trying to find it, maybe. But I think you can separate these things about, you know, I'm never going to sell this bike. You know, I suppose you have this thing where, you know, one of the reasons why we end up having it as a keeper, because nobody wants it, it's not worth anything, and we've customised it to such an extent the way we want it that nobody else likes that style of bike. So we end up with it, and then we call it, oh, that's a keeper, that is. But we know in our mind it's not really. Just we can't get rid of it. And we end up, because there's this other thing. I was watching something the other day about a guy that had a particular bike. It was a relatively cheap bike, but he'd spent thousands on it. But it was his personal to him. And, you know, he obviously loves his bike. He thinks it's phenomenal. And it was an interesting bike. But he spent so much on it, you sort of think, one day maybe when you come to sell it, you're going to list all these things on there that, you know, how great it is because of all these things you put on there, but you're never going to get more back than the original price of the bike, because people don't buy bikes and think about the accessories as such. It's nice to have them. It makes the bike a bargain, but you're not going to pay for those accessories because you just buy them yourself. And I suppose that's always a risk, isn't it, with your keeper, because you spend so much money on it, you're going to try and recover it. But the accessories are sort of worthless, aren't they? I suppose. But you do get that situation. But there is a second area to this where and we all do this, and I've done this, is that I wish I'd never sold that. You know, not necessarily that it was a keeper, but it puts it into that category that I wish I never sold that. I wish I still had that bike, because like I've got two, I suppose, that I wish I still had. One is the first Bonneville I had was the green T100 that had was the last of the carburetted versions. And my God, that bike went. God, that was fast, that bike. And I can remember not far from here, I'm on Curdford on the totally brown cricket field. And I can remember opening it up for the first time as I came off a bend and opened it up, and then I can remember it nearly wrenching my arms off the handlebars, because it sort of took me by surprise. That's a bike I sort of wish I never sold. But if I had it now, would I think it was the one I should have kept? Probably not. You know, 6 months down the line, I would have found something else to, you know, take me interest. And the other one, which I think because I think you want bike backs for a reason. So the other one, which has a different reason for wanting it back, which I never sold, was the Honda that I built to go do the trip down to Morocco and that. The Africa 500, my CB 500X. Because when I put a lot of time into that bike, or a reasonable amount of time and effort, and did it, and I did ended up with a bond with that bike, because we went through a lot together, deserts and stuff, and rain and snow and all the rest of it, I remember. And it was so ultra reliable, and it saw me through all that. But because I sold that so quickly, it was almost like cutting an umbilical cord. You know, I had this bike, and suddenly about 2 weeks later, boom, it's gone. You know, and I used the money for something else. And of course, now when I started to get this adventure bike itch again, I thought, God, all I want is a bike to go on a few adventures on and do certain bits of work on, you know, where I might have to take it somewhere to pick up another bike and leave it there. And take it to France and leave it in France. Oh, what a perfect bike. You know, what would I need to do that? Oh, I know, don't I need a small adventure bike? Oh, hang on a minute, I had one of them. If I could redraw my perfect adventure bike, that was it. You know, and I flogged it. And you think, oh, God. So that's probably from a more practical point of view. I shouldn't have sold that. I should have kept hold of that. But then I've had lots of lovely bikes since then that I really enjoyed owning. But I keep thinking, you know, if I could draw out my perfect adventure bike, that was it. Because I built it. Or put it together, shall we say. I didn't just build it physically, but, you know, did everything I wanted to. It had the look that I wanted, and it was perfect for me. And then I got rid of it. So I suppose you have to sort of put these into two categories. Is the bike a keeper, or is it a bike you wish you never sold? Are they the same thing? Do you know what I mean? Do they boil down to the same thing at the end of the day? And I think probably they do, you know. But I think it's fatal. I'm not saying that Freddie's said something terrible, but I think it's fatal for YouTubers to get a bike and say, this is a keep, I'm never going to get rid of this. You know, I wouldn't do that. I just think, no. I'm sure Freddie will keep his for years because it is sentimental to him. I've not got a sentimental attachment to any of the bikes that I've got, I don't think, really. Those ones that I did have a sentimental attachment with, I got rid of them. So much for sentiment. But are there bikes that you've had or that you've got which you now call as a keeper, or that you wish you'd never sold, and why? I suppose at the end of the day, that the one that just irks me every now and again, I just, why did I do that? Is that Honda, that CB500. I loved that bike, and I think it was more bloody minus that it proved that you could do those sort of journeys on a bike like that and not feel underpowered or undergunned or whatever it was. It was perfect for that, absolutely perfect. And I'm not saying it was the perfect bike, but it was pretty close to it for me for that job. And it's such a versatile thing, and then I went and sold it. What an idiot. But yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, what you think about people saying this is a keeper, and do you fall into a trap when you do that? Do you trap yourself in there? And because then sooner or later you do get rid of it, and because we're terrible as bikers, aren't we? We chop and change every 10 minutes, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt anybody, does it? But we can sort of live to regret it a little bit, I suppose. But I suppose then we shouldn't have regrets in that way, should we really? I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. We're in that, we're going back into that heat wave again. I think it's going to be a short-lived heat wave, but we're going back into the 30-odd degree heat again, aren't we? No rain on the horizon, as far as I can see. But I did feel that autumn coldness on my hands the other day. I had to get up early to go down to Southampton, and I put some petrol in the car. As I got out, I could feel the tips of my fingers cold. I thought, autumn's coming. Slightly premature because the leaves are coming off the trees of these now, because they're sort of being burnt off by the heat a little bit. You know, they're falling a little bit earlier, but we're heading into autumn. My favourite time of year, autumn. I love autumn. Being an old gamekeeper, I suppose you enjoy that because you know what's coming up, the season's coming up. But yeah, there we go. That's Wednesday's bike club for you. And yeah, just another shout out for Sofirn. So yeah, thanks for sending the lights, and great. Check them out. I think we'll put the price up. I think the standard SE1 is only about 11 quid, and then the Pro, I did look at my one. I think it was about £16. But they're fantastic. They're really cool. I just like the idea of having an emergency headlight if you need it, and it would work. You know, it would work. Get you out of a spot, wouldn't it? Right. Take care, and I will see you in the next episode. Look after yourselves. Ride safe. There's some more bikes going past. Everybody's waking up. Right. Look after yourselves. See you soon.